Hey everyone, welcome to this new video. Today I'll be doing a tutorial on scriptable object and simple enemy pathing. We'll basically make a simple enemy spawner. In the description there are two links. The first link will be the sprites and assets I will be using in this video, and I made them up front, and you can download them and you can use them to follow in the tutorial. I also have a second file which is basically the entire working tutorial, and if you have any questions or you're curious on what everything means, I documented everything very well. I have a lot of comments in there, so if something is unclear then definitely check out that file, and yeah, I definitely recommend you to check that one out too. Alright, so we'll be starting with setting up our game, of course. I'll be doing it in 3D, but you can also do it in 2D. There is a small difference, but it's not a lot, so you should easily be able to get the hang of it. I will call this tutorial. Of course you can call it whatever you like, and we will press create. Alright, so we are in the scene, in our scene. What we will do now is we will pick the downloaded assets pack. It will be scriptable objects tutorial.unity package, and this will be the one that's not complete. We will double click it and we will import it. Also, during this tutorial I'll go a little bit faster through the basics, because otherwise this tutorial is going to take an hour, and of course we don't want that. So we will go to the scenes and we will open test scene. This is a scene I made up front. You can see there is like some tiles on the side. These are basically just decoration. This is all decoration. The only things we need in the scene are these blocks, and they are the path points, and this is the enemy that will walk. So what we will do is we will select these path points, and they will have a tag on them. In this import they already have the tag, the path point tag, and this will be used to easily identify them through the code. If you don't have the path point tag, you can go to the tag, add tag, plus, and create your own path point tag. But we have that one, so it's fine. Alright, so once again check if all the path points are there. If you're making it on your own, make sure that the first one is of course at the start, second, third, fourth. So what we will make first is we will make the enemy pathfinding script. This will of course make it so the enemy can move between the different paths. For this we will make a simple Unity script, enemy pathfinding. Now enemy follow path, and we will open this. Now we will need us a couple of things for this. So we will start off with setting the enemy speed. This will be a serialized field, and serialized field is basically something like public but more efficient. If you're going to work at a company, it's more likely that they will be using serialized field, because it's much more professional, and you will learn, and it's a private field you can see in the inspector. But I'm not going into much detail because that's not what we need. Then I will give it the name move speed, because of course we will be using it to check how fast the enemy is going to move. We will also create a game object, and it's called path points. Why do we need this? This is of course where we are going to store the path points that the enemy are going to follow. We are also going to create a vector tree target point, and this will be the point where the enemy is going to move towards. And as last we will add a current point, and the current point will basically be the index of the array. So basically if it's on 0 it's going to go to the first one, if it's on 1 it's going to the second one, third is going to third one. Now at the start function we will set everything up. We will go to path points, and we will need to find all of the path points in the scene. And how do we find it? We gave all the path points in the scene a special tag, so we can just use find object with an S, make sure there is an S in between, find game object.find object with tag, and then we will say path point. If this does not work, you probably don't have your tags right and you need to recheck and make sure that the tags have the right name. After that, we will also set our target point, and our target point will of course be where the enemy moves towards. There's a small change we will do with this. We won't just do path point dot transform dot position. We will do new vector tree, and now we will go path point, and then we will take our current index or current point dot transform dot position dot x. And why are we doing it this way? Because the path points are in the sky, meaning that if we just set the transform dot position, then our enemy will start floating. So what we will be doing is we will use the transform dot position of dot y. So that basically means the height of the enemy and not the height of the path point, meaning that the enemy will just stay at the same height all the time, but it will move his x and z position. So now path points dot. If I'm going a little bit too fast, you can always just copy paste, and later you can check out the completed version where I wrote everything down, and over there I have everything in much more detail. But like I said before, if I'm going to explain everything a lot in depth, this tutorial is going to take hours, and actually I have everything written down very well for you. So definitely check out the second link if it's getting harder to follow along, and I have everything written out for you. Now we will to make sure that the enemy looks at the path point it's walking towards, because otherwise he might be looking forward while he's going to the right. So we will simply use transform.lookAt, and we will set it to the target point. So now it will look to the point he's facing, he's going towards. We will also move the character towards the point, so we will basically say that the transform.position of the enemy is equal to vector3.move towards. So he'll be moving towards the checkpoint, and he will start from the position, so where he comes from, so where he is right now, to the target point. And the target point we assigned over here. Then we will also set we will make a frame rate independent speed. I also explained that in the script, so if you don't know what it is yet, definitely check that out. Frame rate independent is basically so it moves at the same speed over every different PC. So right now the enemy will move from the first point to the second point. I set this to 1 for now, because otherwise it will just stand still. So we can test now if the enemy walks from this point to that point, it works. And it looks like the enemy isn't working, and why is that? Because we forgot to add our script to the enemy. So right now I added it to the enemy and now it works. So make sure to add your script to the enemy, and then it's supposed to work. I also have it in a prefab, but it's a little bit glitchy, so I'll remove this prefab and re-import it. There we go. And now you can see, like you just saw, it works. The enemy walks from one part to the other one. So definitely do not forget to add your script to your enemy, because otherwise it's not working. Alright, but like you saw, it only went to 1 point. So we still need to increment the points when we go towards it. What we will do is we will check if the vector3.distance between your enemy's position and the target point is smaller than 0.05. This I prefer using distance instead of just equal, because distance is much more accurate and people won't see if there's a small in between. So right now this will check if the enemy reached this point, and then we will set current points +1. And what this will do is basically go to the target current point and will set it to 1 and move towards the next point. Of course, this doesn't work yet because the target point is still the same. What we have to do is we now have to reassign the target point, and now it will move towards the target point we just assigned again. But it's not done yet because right now it will give an error. It will keep moving forwards. So what we will do is we will add an if statement and we will say current point is smaller than or equal to pathpoints.length, and then we will say destroy game object. So this will basically check if you reach the end, and if you do, it will be destroyed. And if it's not the case, we will check else, and then we will reassign the target point. Alright, so if everything works fine, our enemy should now just move from one point to the other one and he will be destroyed in the end. And there we go, it worked. It went a little bit fast, so we will set the enemy speed to 5, and now it works just fine. There we go. So we have our enemy ready. So we will just enemy holder, we will apply this to the prefab, and we will now remove our enemy because we don't need it anymore. I also have the enemy spawner sitting here, and he will be responsible for spawning the enemy. Let's see what his position is. His position is right here, so that's correct, at the first point. So what we will need for the enemy spawner to work with a scriptable object is we will need a new C# script, and we will call it enemy spawner scriptable object. I like using the long names because it's much more clear, but of course a little bit more typing. So we will now first make our scriptable object. So this is a little different than mono behavior because it of course isn't mono behavior. So we will create an asset menu, and we will use file name, and we will call it an anime wave. And we will also add a menu name, and we will call this the menu name anime spawner. You will later see why this is in there. We will also change this from mono behavior to scriptable object, because this is of course a scriptable object. Now we need to be able to assign variables to the scriptable object. We will set a public game object named enemy, and this will of course hold the enemy. We will also add a public int spawn amount, and this will be how many enemies there will be spawned, and we will set it to 5 right now. And we will also add a public float spawn delay, and we will set it to 0.5, and this will be the delay between the next spawn. So basically enemy spawn 0.5 delay enemy spawn. And we will add one more thing, and this will be a serialized field because we won't be calling it from another script, and this will say string say something. And this will be a small test we will be doing because right now we won't be using functions, but you can also trigger functions from a scriptable object. So if I say public void say something, we will be able to call this function from the scriptable object, and we will basically say debug.log log error, it doesn't matter actually, say something, and there we go. So now every time this function is called, it will say in the debug.log hey. So right now we have our scriptable object ready, and we will wait for a second because Unity needs to load everything in again, And there we go. We will right click, we will go to create, and we go to enemy spawn. Right now we have an enemy wave, and like you see, this is our enemy scriptable object. We can now put our holder, this inner holder, and you can see that everything is alright. Spawn amount, spawn delay. So now we need one more thing, and that's of course to set up the enemy spawner. And the enemy spawner will basically of course be responsible for spawning the enemy. This is a little bit hard with some if statements, but we'll get through it together. So we will create a new script, and this will be the enemy spawner. And we will open the script, and before we forget again, because I'm kind of forgetful with these kinds of things, we will add the enemy spawner in. We will add the enemy spawner to the enemy spawner game object, and we will now go to the tutorial. Oh, it's not open yet. Alright. We'll go to the enemy spawner script, and we will give it some variables. The first variable will be a serialized field, because we won't be calling it from other functions, from other classes. And it is the enemy spawner scriptable object, and we will call it in short ASSO. This will hold all of our scriptable objects, so all of our waves will go into this thing. We will set a serialized field once again with a delay between the different waves. This will be of course to make sure that the enemies don't just get spammed. There will be like a 3-second delay between the different waves. So between delay, and I'll use main, and the main one will be the one we will be using to reset and set, and we will set a float between wave delay. There we go. I'm also going to between wave. There we go. So we now have this one will be decreased, and this one will be used to reset the timer again. I'll show you later what we will be doing with it. And we will add some extra variables to basically track the spawning process. So we will add an int current ESSO, and this will be to check at what scriptable object we are right now. We will use an int spawned, and this will be used to check how many enemies we spawned already. We will add a float spawn delay main, and this will be is the same concept as over here. We will be using this to check how much time there was between any spawn, so we can make sure that it spawns at the right pace. And because we do that, we also need a spawn delay, which we will be using to decrease. We will be using this to reset this one, so the spawn delay keeps going well. So we start with the between delay. We will set the between delay to the between delay main. This will set the between delay, so this one to 3, because that's what we set over here. We will also set the spawn delay main, and we will set that equal to the AASO, so the scriptable object. And we will set that to the current ASSO, so in this moment 0. And we will set that to spawn, and we will take the spawn delay out of it. The spawn delay, that is basically this one. So it's a public float spawn delay, and we will be calling this one from here. ASSO is the scriptable object, so we will now add the scriptable object to keep things clear. Alright, so we will press the enemy spawner, and like you see right now we have an ASSO. I will put the enemy wave we created earlier in there. So we will drag and drop, and now we have these stats are now inside of the enemy spawner script. Alright, and now we just need to loop through all of the components, through all of the stats, and we will now, and then we will be able to spawn the enemies. So we will do the between wave delay minus equal time dot delta time. This will be used to check if the timer is ready for another wave. And so right now this will just decrease from 3 and then it will go down. So we'll check if the between delay is smaller than or equal to 0. So basically if the time is up, we will start decreasing the spawn delay. And the spawn delay is of course the time between each enemy spawn. So time dot delta time. And now we will check if the spawn delay is greater than or is smaller than or equal to 0, and the amount of spawned entities is smaller than the max amount of entities in the scriptable object. So you remember spawn amount, right? That's also in here. So basically smaller than 5. So as long as it's not as it's smaller than 5, we can instantiate a new entity. So if these requirements met, we can continue and instantiate a new entity. So we go to ASSO, so we will once again call the current ASSO, so the base descriptable object, in this case still 0, and we will instantiate the enemy we also once again declared over here, and we will instantiate it at the transform.position, so where the spawner is, and we will set it to quantorian.identity, and this is basically 0, so that will just reset everything, and it will be inside of this object. Actually we don't need that, that would make things less clear. Then we will add 1 to the spawn, so it will basically say that that spawn goes +1. So right now there's 1 spawn, so it will loop again, and then it will check 1. Then it will go again, spawned 2, 3, and if it reaches 5, it won't. This code won't happen. Now we need to set spawn delay back to spawn delay main, because we want to reset the timer, because otherwise it spawns everything at the same time. And we will set ASSO to current ASSO dot say something. So basically now we will just execute a line of code. This is actually completely useless, but we have it in there so we can test this function here. Next, we still need one more thing. We need to check if it's at the end. So basically, if all the enemies are spawned, what needs to happen then? Well, first we need to check if every enemy has spawned. So if it did, we can check spawned. Spawned. So if spawned is greater than is ASSO dot current ASSO dot spawn amount. So if there's more than the spawned, and current ASSO, so basically the one you're in right now, so basically this time it's still at 0, +1 is smaller than ASSO dot length. We will check this because otherwise it's going to give errors. Then we will increment current ASSO to 2 by 1, because we will go through the next wave. Then we will set spawned back to 0, because of course we want to reset, we want to start over again with our entities. And if we keep it if it's already on 5, it will continue incrementing from 5, and you just don't get what you want. We will set the spawn delay. So we will set the spawn delay, the spawn delay of the enemies, so the main spawn delay, equal to ASSO dot current ASSO dot spawn delay, because maybe it has a different spawn delay, and then of course we need to set the main spawn delay to that one. And we will also reset the between wave delay equal to the between wave delay main, and this will of course once again reset the wave delay. And if we did everything right over here, definitely pause if you don't have it already. If you did everything right here, we should be able to have an enemy and move it in between. We will set one more enemy wave because we want to test if it also loops well, so we will add one more. We will go to enemy spawn, we will add an enemy in here, and we will set the spawn delay to 0.1, and we will spawn 20 of them. Now we will go to the enemy spawner, we will move this in here, and now we have two enemy waves, so the first one and the second one. We will start it now and we will see if it works. There we go, first. Now it will move, it will wait 3 seconds, and now the second wave comes. And now you can see that like the console keeps saying hey because it triggers, and it works. We now have a simple enemy spawner, and we do it with Scriptable object. You are now free to do whatever you want with it. You can add another enemy, you can add whatever enemy you want. You can set this .0 even, 0.01. Fine. And we can add 80 of them, and it will just, oh wait, no, and you of course have to add it to the spawner, and it just works. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone. I hope this worked, I hope you learned something. This is actually my first coding tutorial, so definitely give me feedback in the comment section down below. I don't know if I went a little bit fast or not, but in the description there is another link to the complete version. Definitely check that one out. And yeah, thanks for watching everybody. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content. I would love to get some more suggestions so I can get more tutorials going. And yeah, I hope to see you again very soon. If this helped you, definitely like, and yeah, bye.